it after adding you will not get 1 gram of soil. So there is a lag. That is for computer science people. There is a gap in that weight. That is very interesting for the computer science people. What they do that. Although what we do that, we take that samples and we use that samples. We use Puro function, and we use that Puro functions to try to try to uh, try to try to understand the another some property we know that we can um, measure, and some property we cannot measure in a real time. So what can we do? We can use that property, the property we know. We use that property and use machine learning and genetic algorithm like bio-inspired algorithm to find the another rest of the like Buck modulus density and other things, to find the rest of the elements to in a real time, so that we can predict the which soil is important for the millet. And although there is a in 2007 there is a soil health card, government of India has published, but there was some problems in that. They only trying to measure the uh, 12 type of elements of the soil. They can check, and they are also taking much longer time, 2 days or 3 days. That is not suitable for India. So and that is not helped in India, the farmers of the India. And another thing is and like that sunlight, water, and these are the elements that helps in agriculture, that millet production. So millet production involve some seed procurement, germination, cultivation, harvesting, storage, milling, trade, and distribution, inventory, consumption. So seed procurement is another big issue, because in a nowadays seed is original seed. The seed is not original seed is not available, because we what we bought from the market, they are hybrid seeded, and the hybrid seeded is already they modified, some modified genes, some modification has already been done, and that is not good for our health. So I request the the chair and the whole participants, please visit the one woman, very uh, Vandana Siva. You go and please visit that Vandana Siva on YouTube, and very good. You see the how seed procurement and how seed preservation is needed in this present time. Another things we want to tell that we want to tell that there is there is a huge market of seed, fertilization, and pesticides. So these
Sir, excuse me, sir.
so huge
Sir,
market. Yes.
so your time is over. Maximum
Wait,
15
wait.
minutes of presentation. Can you
Okay,
kindly
okay,
conclude your remarks?
okay, ma'am. These type of abstract seven abstract to we wanted to explore. We wanted to address these 7 points, like so germinating our uh, crop seeds, boxing and unboxing, from sending one place to another place, agriculture, inventory, trading system, logistic management, and enterprise resources planning. And on these seven uh, on these 7 abstract elements, we have 7 questions. Just some 7 questions like, how can a sandbox be developed? So germination, from germination only we can, how can we have to take care of the things like sandbox. How could we sandbox be developed? How does the farmers box and unbox agriculture removes, because boxing and unboxing already disturbs the quality of the product. So we need to address that also. What are the various process involved in storage of millet production? So in village millet production in village area, there is a storage problem that addresses. So can millet be treated as per the fair trade system? So for supply and chain, there is another problem. There are sufficient resources available as a part of the logistic management system for the transport and delivery of the millet produce. Can various enterprises involved in the agriculture, typically in India, manage a sufficient supply chain multi-millet production? So these seven questions, based on these seven elements, we have seven questions, and that seven question can be answered using this algorithm, uh, Millen algorithm, where we have mechanics, enterprises, land, order, normalization, and each word initials can be aggregated to get a Millen, and and this is up to this map. Thank you, ma'am. If you have any question, please write to my email. I will happy to answer all those questions. Okay, ma'am.
എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞപ്പോ
Hello.
Mr.
Inaudible?
Baidinath Ram presented.
Yes. If you have any answer questions, queries, please ask me.
Baidinath KM presented on a diverse ecosystem for the cultivation of various millets in the Indian subcontinent, and he presented the distribution of millets and the cultivation and the problems and all the facts in a very well structured manner. Thank you, sir, for your time and spent in this conference. Thank you so much. And the next person, that is Dr. Savita KL, faculty member, Christ University, and her topic, that is advancement of South Asian nations in achieving sustainable development goals. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. May I ask you to leave?
Thank you, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am? Sir, am I audible? Can I share the slide now? Sir, the slide is visible, sir. Yes, sir. 1 minute. Sir, is it visible now? It's in full screen only, sir. Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon to one and all. This is Dr. Savita. I am presenting a paper on advancement of South Asian nations in achievement in sustainable development goal, which is prepared along with Dr. T.J. Joseph and Dr. Jomit Siti. So moving to the presentation, so SDG negotiation, we all know that one, why the SDGs came, what is the importance of SDGs. Previous presentation, we already listened that one also. For the negotiation for the past 2015 development agenda, we have put forward the importance of SDGs and the Rio 20 outcome documents that future we want mandate to establish an open working group to develop a set of sustainable development goals for the consideration and appropriate actions by the General Assembly in 68th session. So it is provided that the basic for the conceptualization and the RIO outcome has a mandate that the SDG should be coherent with and integrated into the UN development agenda beyond 2015. And the key roles of the country grouping is that major group stakeholders private sector, civil society, these all sectors have play a major role for achieving the Sustainable Development Goal. So moving to the SDG and South Asia. So the South Asian began its pursuit of SDG with the initial conditions marked by the substantial gap across all socio-economic indicators of the sustainable development. So the sub-region accounted for nearly 1/3 of the world poor and the food deprived population. You know that the South Asian countries are, most of the South Asian countries are underdeveloped or developing countries, and nearly half of all undernourished children in the world belongs to the South Asia also. So the South Asia, which is a diverse socio-economic characteristics and challenges, it's crucial for implementing the Sustainable Development Goals. Despite the economic growth, South Asia still faces limited access to education, health, technology, and good governance. So to determine the largest transformative issue for the South Asian countries in their implementation environment, it is crucial to understand how the progress and the challenges that they are represented vary in the nation in context. So the main objective of the study is to identify the progress of South Asian countries in achieving sustainable development goal, and the methodology that we use is in order to compare the performance of the country and to determine whether or not the particular goals are being advanced. A listed selected indicators under various major SDGs is being chosen, and the indicators we have selected in this paper is mainly based on the objective of the South Asian countries, because South Asian countries is mainly giving importance for the 4 major objectives, including the ending poverty in all forms of everywhere, ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all ages, ensuring inclusive and equity quality education and living long learning opportunities, and promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth with a full and productive employment and decent work for all. So these 4 areas, the South Asian countries are giving more importance. So the information is gathered from country-specific statistics, including the UNESCAP reports, SANS report, the World Development Indicators of the World, and the Sustainable Development Report 2022. And the data for the period for this paper has been selected from 2015 to 2021, as the SDGs were established in 2015. The comparative analysis used to describe how each country is performing in relation to the SDGs and associated metrics. So the study findings explicitly specific the SDG metrics that were used to assess the development of South Asian countries. So moving to the analysis, first we starting with the overall SDG score and a comparison based on this. So while looking to the overall SDG score, we can see that the Bhutan and the Maldives score is more compared to other South Asian countries. In all the aspects of these 2 countries, they have almost achieved almost all the goals compared to the remaining South Asian countries. And Afghanistan is comparatively poor, but still it's growing. When you look into the 2015 to 2021, there is a steady growth of the country is there. And Indian case, we can see that India 2000 till 2020, there is a steady growth. After that, there is a slight decline in the growth from the period 2020 and 21. This because of the COVID issues and COVID time period. After that, India started gaining the progress in the area of SDGs. And while looking to the population using least basic drinking service also, here also we can see that Bhutan and Maldives for the top, which is followed by Bangladesh also. But in the case of Afghanistan, still it's worse. Compared to this Bhutan, Bangladesh and Maldives, but they are also growing. And looking to the basic sanitation services or clean fuel energy in all area, the country like Maldives, Sri Lanka, Bhutan are showing a improvement, or they are almost achieved this goal. So when we are looking to the India specific progress of SDGs, this figure is showing that India specific progress of SDGs. From this figure, this is the figure which we have extracted from the SDG dashboard, UN SDG dashboard. So here we can see that Indian economy is almost on tracking with the goal 1 and goal 12. So there is a green mark for these 2 goals, that's no poverty and the responsible consumption and production. But in the area of inequality, reduce inequality and life on land, India is showing a decreasing growth. Means there is no improvement in this area, and there is a stagnant growth in the climate action, zero hunger, and sustainable cities and communities. Since Indian economy or other South Asian countries is mainly focusing on the area of zero hunger, good health, no poverty, decent work, and better sanitation and clean energy. In this whole area, except the no poverty and responsible consumption, Indian economic growth is comparatively less regarded to others. other countries. But in the case of Bhutan and Maldives, even though they are the small countries, they have achieved almost all the goals and they are on the track also. So this is the table which shows the progress of the overall Asian countries. From this table also we can see that the Indian economy is still, their growth is declined from the year 2016 to 2020. But after that, there are certain flagship schemes which is introduced by the government for achieving the sustainable development goal, including the area of good health or area like Ayushman Bharat and all, to promote the countries to achieve the SDGs. So the major findings based on the analysis is that South Asian countries score have marginally improved consistently since 2015, or it is stagnant, but it is not deteriorated. Within the South Asian region, the top three performance are Bhutan, Maldives, and Sri Lanka, respectively. And the progress in the South Asia hold promise for around 1.836 billion people, almost one fourth of the global population through the pandemic is estimated to cause 48 to 59 billion people to remain poor in 2021 in South Asia region. And South Asian annual GDP growth also reduced. But South Asian countries have faced, even though they are facing major challenges in the area of SDG 2, SDG 3, SDG 6, SDG 7, SDG 9, or SDG 15, these all countries are showing a growth, means there is an improvement in the achievement of or the progress related to the SDGs. And in the case of this infant mortality rate, the South countries like Sri Lanka and Maldives is having what we call lowest infant mortality rate, and Pakistan is having highest infant mortality rate. So here, moving to the conclusion, the paper concluded that given the SDGs are merely ambitious and effective, governance and strong political will are required to attain these objectives. When we are talking about the achievement of a sustainable development goal, the overall, starting from the federal level to the national level, we have to give more focus of attaining this goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Pam. Thank you, ma'am, for your fine presentation. You systematically presented the topic and compare the South East nations, Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Nepal, and Pakistan, and also India, and achieving the sustainable development goals in a very systematic manner. Thank you for your time and patience for presenting this seminar paper in a very systematic way. Thank you, ma'am. The next person, Anusri, Research Scholar, Department of Economics, Janaki Ammal Campus, Palayad University, and her topic is that National Education Policy of 2020 and Sustainable Development Goal for United Nations, and analysis of Indian higher education. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ma'am. It is visible? Hello? Hello, is it visible? Okay, thank you. My topic of the presentation is National Education Policy of 2020 and Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the United Nations, an analysis of Indian higher education. India has the highest youth population in the world. With the emergence of global competition and knowledge economy, the countries around the world are expanding its higher education to competing in this globalized society. In India also, there is a large expansion of higher education sector. In addition, the wave of globalization and internationalization played a major role in a strong and vibrant higher education system of our country. The National Education Policy is a comprehensive education policy introduced in July 2020 that transforms existing education system of our country, which covers the policy reforms from elementary education to college education. And it is the latest education policy of Government of India that is implemented after a gap of 34 years that aims to restructure the entire education system of our country. The focus of new educational policy is to make the education system of the country more vibrant by improving the quality of education through a series of measures like skill development, infrastructural development, curriculum reforms, administrative reforms, educational innovation, promoting research, reforms in examination, etc. The main intention of new education policy is to make the quality and affordable education available to every citizens in the country. The country have a good and long-lasting effect as a result of new understanding of the interconnection or similarities between the recommendation of new education policy 2020 of Government of India and Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the United Nations. Next, we go in higher education in India. Education is making the individual a better human being and help to securing a suitable livelihood. And India owns a rapidly growing in the Indian higher education, the number of students, number of women during the past decade. But there existing several complex regulatory structure of Indian higher education system. The low or decreasing quality of education. Thirdly, excessive influence of political factors. Fourthly, ensuring accessibility of higher education to socially. Fifthly, the existing higher education did not recognize the importance of research in higher education. Sixthly, existing education system gave more emphasis upon rote learning and learning only. Seventhly, there are private educational institution in higher education. In higher education, new educational policy entrance examination for university admission and the exam will be examination offer fair chances to all the students without any discrimination and fairness in the selection process. New educational policy 2020 encouraged multidisciplinary institutions with more flexibility and freedom in choosing the subject across various streams, and this will put an end to traditional approach of education based on purely on theoretical knowledge, and it will providing a holistic education and provide more comprehensive education by exposing students to diverse range of courses. A multidisciplinary education is the critical thinking among the student, and in multidisciplinary education is not limited to. Next, the new education policy focus upon creating life skill and vocational education. The emphasis upon life and it will increases the employability of the students. Of higher education. As a part of this, the 14 universities were allowed to set up camps, promote the research and bring mobility in progress. Will make Indian higher education more flexible and competition of Indian students to foreign countries, and this opportunity for the student to experience education in their own domain. New proposed establishment of an action. Setting up of National Research Foundation will help to boost research and innovation by providing, and it will help to strengthen the relationship between academia, industry, society, and government. Then, new education policy promote multilingualism in teaching and learning. Multilingualism enhance communication and cognition among the student. Then, new education policy recommend to introduce a 4-year multidisciplinary undergraduate courses with multiple entry and exit option. And it allows the student to choose courses as per their own interest, and it enables the student to pursue multiple degrees simultaneously and thus promote flexible learning along with opportunity to learning anywhere at any time. In order to solve the problem of over-regulation of Indian higher education and in order to regulating the entire higher education, the new education policy recommended to establish the Higher Education Commission of India, and which will be a single regulatory body which will abolish the existing bodies like UGC, All India Council of Technical Education, National Council of Teachers Education. In order to promote the use of technology, the new educational policy proposed to establishment of a National Education Technology Forum. That new educational policy encouraged creativity and thinking and put more emphasis upon conceptual understanding rather than traditional way followed in the past few decades based upon studying for exams and rote learning. Then we go to the sustainable development, focusing on the sustainable development goal 4. that is to ensuring inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. There are certain targets under the Sustainable Development Goal 4. They are free primary and secondary education, equal access to quality pre-primary education, equal access to affordable technical, vocational and higher education, increase the number of people with relevant skill for financial success, eliminate all the discrimination in education, universal literacy and numeracy, education for sustainable development and global citizenship. Then there are three targets: build and upgrade inclusive and safe schools, expanding higher education scholarship for developing countries, increase the supply of qualified teachers in developing countries. The Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the United Nations aim to ensuring inclusive and equitable quality of education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. The Sustainable Development Goal 4 sets certain targets that aim to achieving all there by the year 2030. Providing quality of education. Quality education is a very important under the present circumstances, and it is only through education poverty, inequality and other social evils can be eliminated. Quality of education is the backbone for the growth of any society, and education policy is the way to attain it. The new education policy 2020 is also in line with the goal 4 of the United Nations, which clearly believe equal access to education is the base for sustainable development. By aligning the sustainable development target to new education policy, the government has ensured the success of self-reliance campaign of the nation to providing equal education to all. The new education policy 2020 will strengthen all the citizens of the country by enhancing their skill and knowledge. Ever Another major focus of new education policy is to achieving the target of United Nations Sustainable Development Goal on education is increasing technological advancement at all the level of education so that the classroom experience and process could be improved. Technological advancement will lead to professional development among the teachers. In conclusion, almost all the recommendations of new education policy are similar to Sustainable Development Goal 4 of the United Nations, as both including several policy measures to improve the quality of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Anusri. Anusri present the topic on higher education systems in India and explain the problems, elaborate the ideas, and how it can be solved through national education policy and the relevance of this policy, and how it will be lead through a sustainable development goals. And she explains in an elaborative manner and also explain the relevance of education. Thank you, Anusri, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parallel session 1. Dear participants, our technical session 2 starts here, and our resource person is Dr. Dhanya Vijayan, research scientist, Leibniz Center for Agricultural Landscape Research, Munich, Germany. And I introduce to Dr. Dhanya Vijayan I welcome Dr. Nishida Pankan to introduce her. Over to you, ma'am.
Unmute, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am. Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are audible, ma'am.
So, good afternoon, all. So, we have the Dr. Danya Vijayan, who is a research scientist at the Leibniz Center for the Agricultural Landscape Research, Munchenberg, Germany. She is working as a research scientist at the Leibniz Center for Agricultural Landscape Research. She has more than 10 years of interdisciplinary research on the topic of sustainable and participatory management of natural resources. Her current research involves understanding key impact of tropical rainforest conservation. So she has a postdoctoral degree at Saal, Germany, and she is also a DAD postdoctoral fellow. So, with all honor, I may invite you to this conference, ma'am. I may also invite the research associate, Liji ma'am, to this conference, ma'am. So, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Sorry, I have been sick for last week, so my voice is not that great. Okay, so first, Liji, she is a research scholar at University of Prague. So she will do the introductory section first. So please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I am audible. Um, so, uh, we will just give you a perspective about indigenous knowledge and how and why it is very important at this point of time. So, if you have read about it, there's a lot of research going on around indigenous knowledge and how we can utilize this knowledge for different management perspectives. For example, my research is mostly on forest management and participatory forest management to be specific, and how we can include indigenous knowledge into the forest management practices. Why it is important? Because we all know at this point managing forests especially has become very critical, considering the climate change and also increasing global temperature, etc. So all the countries are trying to manage the forest and also increase the forest cover. But so far, whatever practices followed from the 80s, uh, these are all not foolproof. That is why there is not 100% results. Most of the practices which are based on scientific methods, we saw that it is not giving 100% results. So that is where the role of knowledge, other knowledge systems like indigenous knowledge, for example, plays a major role. So what is indigenous knowledge? It's a knowledge system which is being practiced from ancient time by a set of people, mostly the traditional people or indigenous people in India. We call them tribal people, right? So these knowledge systems were there from ancient times, and these are very foolproof. But for some reason, these knowledge is not there now. It's all disappearing slowly. There are many socio-political reasons for that. So I'll tell you about India, how we had a very very good, traditional knowledge system in India by all these tribal people. We call them scheduled tribe, scheduled caste, etc., and how it disappeared with time. So as we all know, all our we were very very good from ancient times, right? We have a very rich history, and we were all good in almost all the spheres. That is when the colonization happened, right? So from there the story begins. All the negative stories actually begins from that. Similarly, these indigenous people were also pushed towards these marginalized community status during that time. So what happened? So we all know that we had a very rich forest ecosystem before our colonization happened, right? So during the colonization, there were a lot of changes, and in Europe, industrial revolution happened, and rest of the story, we were literally, you know, in all our resources were taken away from here. So forest was also the same case, right? So all our rich forest resources were um, taken during the colonial time, and they had a so when the Britishers came, they tried to modernize India, saying that our uh, our systems are very ancient and we have to bring India to the modern status. So they tried a lot of administrative changes. So the present system of civil service and all that administrative system, it is actually from their side, right? So forest management also, from the history, it started from there. So all the forest management, the policies which Britishers designed during that time, it never regarded these people who lived in the forest, or surrounded, or lived in the surrounding. So that is when slowly the policies which designed to utilize the forest resources, they often were totally against these people, and these people were pushed outside the forest. And by the time we got independence, because of all the changes, um, these tribal people became you know untouchables, and because their economic and social status was brought down to that level, so all these valuable knowledge which they had, they stopped using that. So now we know that this knowledge system exists, but these people are not in a you know situation where we can utilize their knowledge. All the policies from Britishers times, it was neglecting them, or pushing them towards poverty. So why would they give their knowledge to us, right? So that is where the participation comes in place. So a lot of policies which independent India designed for the forest management and other systems, they slowly started including participatory perspective into that. So the reservation which we see now, which includes these tribal and population, and all of them are supposed to bring them up to the level so that they can also live like us. So we are slowly moving towards that. So their invaluable knowledge, hopefully soon we will be able to utilize. So Dr. Danya will now talk about indigenous food system, and how it is important at this time. Thank you.
Okay,
Unmute,
sorry,
ma'am.
that was off. Okay, thank you. And I don't know if I'm audible. I have a small presentation. Okay, I will try to keep the talking to a minimum and show you the presentation. Okay. Can you share the presentation maybe, please? Someone it's not working.
Ma'am, it's not working.
Yeah, it's not working. I don't know.
Let me try, just give me a minute. Are you able to see it now? Yes?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so okay, this talk I actually presented at the UN Food System Summit. Okay, but I thought I am not presenting today, so I didn't prepare a new slide. Okay, so okay, in India, we have more than 700 distinct tribal communities, and so let me just. Okay, so it's only next to Africa. So Africa has the maximum number of indigenous people, and India has the second next to Africa in the number of indigenous people. Okay, so as Liji said, they have very distinct culture, languages, practices, and they also have very unique food systems. Okay, so in India, we know like there are more than 1,635 native languages for indigenous people, and according to the census of 2011, because the latest census is not yet out. So according to the 2011 census, nearly 10% of population of India are indigenous people. And they are also known as tribal communities of Adivasis. So I'm just showing the map, like where this is actually a map of distribution of indigenous people, and we can see most of them are living within the forest. So, like Liji said, any changes within the forest may also affect the indigenous people, their culture, tradition, and food systems, etc. So it's okay when you talk about sustainable development. The forest also play a critical role in ensuring the sustainability of the resource systems. Okay, so then next slide. And this is like, okay, so my research area is mainly from the Western Ghats, especially from the Kerala. Okay, so we work with nearly 8 communities. We used to work with 8 communities from Wayanad and also from the South Achankoval, Koni area. And in Kerala itself, there are more than 700 tribal settlements and nearly 29,000 families. Okay, so they are really a majority of population, and they are in Kerala they really depend on the traditional cultivation, as well as they also gather food, medicinal plants and food produces from the forest. Okay, so if you look into this slide, these are some of the products they collect from the forest, like include honey and many other medicinal herbs, etc. And this graph also shows the season in which they gather these produces. Okay, and okay, so if you come to the next slide, okay, like we said, the deforestation is a major issue in India and even in Kerala. If you look into the data, after 2011, we always witness there is a sudden increase in the area under forest. So we always portray that area under forest is really increasing. So which is a good thing, because our target is to achieve really around 33% of total area under forest, and especially with the, if you know, the SDGs and the Agenda 2030. So every target is to achieve the maximum area under forest, that is like nearly 30% or 33. So according to our forest statistics data, every year nearly 1% of forest is increasing, which is a good thing.
but actually the area that is increasing is not the real forest, but it is forest plantation. Okay, so when especially if you have been to Wayanad or Idukki or any parts of this area, you will see now the area, especially in Idukki, the area under eucalyptus plantation is increasing, or in Pathanamthitta, Konni, that area under rubber and teak is increasing. Okay, so even in Wayanad, you can see the teak plantations. Okay, but these are good for the timber industry, but they are not good for the natural forest or the forest dependent population, or they don't ensure the ecosystem services. Okay, so even though statistically the forest is increasing, in India there is no clear distinction between natural forest and forest plantation, which is a bad thing. So which doesn't ensure the sustainable development. So if you look into the previous slide, okay, this is a map. These three maps we prepared from the forest ranges in Achenkoval and Koni. Okay, so the, the blue and this dotted lines showing different settlements. Okay, they're hunting and gathering area. If you see, this map shows the variation from 1970s until 2015. Okay, so as you are all economists, you know the tragedy of commons, the term. Okay, so if you see in 1970s, that is the first map. Both of those communities had different hunting gathering areas. They operated in different spaces. Okay, but according within the forest changes, their area got shrunk. And by 1990s, you can see there are some overlaps. Their overall area has decreased, and there is some overlaps. And if you look into the 2015 map, they have only common operational area. They don't have different hunting gathering area anymore. They have only one common space. Okay, so the resources is declining, the natural forest is shrinking, their hunting and gathering area is declining. So that is what you call like tragedy of commons, Now the population is also increasing, but they don't have enough resources. Okay, so what happens then? So in the usually before they used to depend on the forest for their livelihood. Now the diversification of livelihood is happening because now they can't live just depending on the forest. They have to diversify the income. So they go to the different sectors. For example, everywhere now we can see, even in our home, some of the laborers who is working in the our plot is the tribal people. So they are not able to sustain only based on the natural resources or based on the resources from the forest. So they have to move, they have to diversify the livelihood, they have to depend on the other resources for their source of income, and which is, even though they are able to getting the income, the tragedy is that this also means that their culture and tradition is also changing. Their food system is changing. When the forest is when the forest is degrading, that means they are not able to depend on the forest anymore. Okay, some of the communities are happy with that because they like to be away from the forest, or they like to lead a normal life like other people. But some of the communities doesn't like because they feel it is like a cultural disintegration. Okay, or so we know, especially for the tribal people, their culture is also their identity and their existence. Okay, the place where they live, okay, the resources they use, everything is part of their identity. So even forests play much bigger role than for us. Okay, forests provide oxygen, or but it helps to get rainfall. But for other people, it's more than that. They're part of their identity. Okay, so when the forest is degrading, that means they are also facing the identity crisis and existential crisis like that. And these are some data about how many products are declined due to the forest degradation. Because in 1970s, they used to get nearly 30 products from the forest, but now it declined up to 30%. And so many products are declining, and they are able to identify. But for the next generation, they don't know the names of the products, or they don't know the things, or they don't know how the people used to, or the older generation used to utilize these things, because they have different practice of gathering products. They have different practices of processing and utilizing everything. So they but possess unique traditional knowledge. Okay, but when the resources are depleting, the knowledge is also losing according to the generations. Because the characteristics of traditional ecological knowledge is that it is not documented. It is passing through what for folklores or like stories or by the practices. Okay, but when the resources are depleting, the knowledge related with that particular species or particular animal, anything, okay, that also declines. Okay, so in a way, when the forest is degrading, it affects in more than way. Okay, so you know about SDGs and of course COP, what, COP 27, which said, okay, halt and reversal of forest degradation, which means they have to practice the process, they have to stop the deforestation and then reverse the forest. That means all the plantations, everything to be converted to natural forest. Samely, the COP 15 of Biodiversity Convention, they also aggregate the same. So all the agenda is by 2030 we have to achieve the maximum, we have to achieve the objectives of halt and reverse forest degradation. Okay, but it's already 2024. Okay, it's only 1.5 more months. We know in 7 years nothing else gonna change. Or in 7 years, how many forests they can regenerate? Oh, okay. So if you look into the Amazon or Indonesia, all these areas, so in Indonesia, the forests are converting for the palm oil. Okay, in Amazon, about the current government policies for the timber extraction, they are converting the maximum natural forest. Okay, so in the global itself, after Russia, Brazil has the maximum area under forest, and then comes Indonesia. So all these countries. Okay, so there are no global policies to halt or reverse the forest degradation. Apart from the COP 27 or COP 15, there are no real global policies because every nation operates on different principles. Every nation has their own policies and set of guidelines. So even if globally they say, okay, by 2030 we need to convert all the degraded forest to forest, it doesn't happen. Okay, so recently in Europe, they always talk about tracking the products, like or tracking the source of the product. For example, if they export palm oil, they will check if the palm oil is came from a region which is not deforested, or if okay, for this palm oil cultivation has there been a deforestation occurred or something like that. Okay, so uh, what? Make sure that they are collecting or they are importing locally and good sourced products. So there are initiatives like that to ensure the sustainable development, sustainable what management of forest and things. Okay, but and especially after the Glasgow Declaration and all, especially the 27 global countries like US and European countries and EU, all of them are coming together to initiate these kinds of activities. But it all need ground level changes, even though they talk from, okay, even though they say indigenous knowledge is crucial, everything, but they live a different way of life and they do not know about the indigenous knowledge of practices, but at the ground level, how can the changes happen? So no one, these policies doesn't make changes at the ground level. Indigenous people are making the changes or those knowledge. Okay, if you know, even though indigenous people are only like 6% of the global population, they conserve about 80% of the biodiversity. Okay, so they are custodians of the biodiversity, and that means when the indigenous knowledge is being lost, that means the many other things like the conservation practices or other traditional food systems. So many things are also losing. So ensuring the sustainable management of forest also mean that we need to protect or safeguard the forest dependent population. It's it's not just indigenous people are a major part, but not just indigenous people, because according to data, more than 300 million of global population are depending on the forest. So, when the forest resources are degrading, okay, um, then how can they still continue their livelihood, or how can they sustain their livelihood? So these are all major questions. And after the forest degradation, we know that it's not the indigenous culture and forest. Even in India, in Kerala, we read a lot of especially recently, the wildlife conflicts like the elephants or tigers means we read a lot of increase in the wildlife conflicts with human or things like that. So these, even though we talk about protecting trees, this has much more implications than that. It affects different ways, and so that's why we need to okay, we need to protect the forest, and we need to protect the. When we protect the forest, we are not just protecting the forest. And when we say forest, it is not just any trees. It should be biodiversity, rich in biodiversity. And when we protect the biodiversity, we are also protecting the many interlinked ecosystem and people in a way. So, yeah, that's it. Okay, these were the conclusions. So for the conclusions, some of the things which, I mean, from my research, my main insight or my main result was that in Indian forest management there is no clear distinction between natural forest and forest plantations, and there is no clear demarcation on tribal lands or, or okay, those things. So there should be a clear demarcation and mapping of these operating spaces of tribal people, and distinguish between the forest types, and then uh, what facilitate and formulate policies to protect the natural forest. Then only it can really reach the goal level.
If I can add to that, uh, our country is actually doing a lot of initiatives towards this, and if you want to know some examples, you can check TribeFed website, which promotes a lot of indigenous products and support them with a lot of economic incentives and stuff like that. So we are on the way, but in inclusion of these people in the policy making is a really, really big task. You can still read about it in the government website. TribeFed, you can note that.
Ma'am, a very good afternoon to one and all present here in the online and offline mode. Ma'am, we are very delighted and enlightened with your views and ideas, even if you are in a sick condition. We appreciate your valuable time spare with us and concerns towards us. We, the Marthoma College community, extend a heartfelt gratitude to you. Thank you, ma'am. And she explains the tribal settlements in Kerala and how they preserve the natural resources in an indigenous way, and also explains the trends and patterns of food products and resources. And 4 new products are introduced, and 6% of the tribal peoples are in the world population, and 80% of the biodiversity or the food resources and wood products are preserved by these tribal peoples. And I would like to point out one thing. In Malappuram district, uh, an endangered tribal group is situated, that is Chola Naika. And we, the Department of Economics, also studied the the biodiversity and lives and all the natural means of living with the help of our students. And she also explains the traditional farming practices. And let's hope that our concerns and this conference and the discussions also takes in a fruitful and creative manner. We hope that our efforts will create a future generation in a to preserve the biodiversity in a fruitful manner. And we all the participants, on behalf of all the participants in the international conference in the offline and online mode, and the management and the PG Department of Economics extend a heartfelt gratitude, a sincere gratitude to you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good afternoon here. I don't know how about that. Ma'am, even though I've joined through Dr. Vinitha Kebi's profile, let me introduce myself. I'm Nivya Vinilangavil, the head of the Department of Economics. And I extend a very heartful thanks and our gratitude to you two, both Dr. Danya Vijayan and Liji Vinod, because we know in our very critical situation, you helped us, you're offered, and even if you are with COVID and with this breathing issues, we can't, what would I say? It's a great pleasure, and thank you so much. Thank you so much to both of you for making us international conference a fruitful and enriching one. Thank you so much from our part.
Dear participants, then next it's a time for feedback. Then for the feedback session, I would like to invite Dr. Madhura Bhashani onto the dais.
Good evening, one and all present here. It feels very happy and in fact very joyful year, and it very informative. The sessions which were been I mean witnessing from yesterday, it was all informative, and especially the resource person who inaugurated the session, Mr. Veerappan, his session was quite very informative as well, and I want to congratulate and give a very good feedback on all the session which went on, and especially the faculty members of the college and particularly the department. With a limited faculty, they have done a very good job, especially the hospitality as well as taking care of us and making us feel like home. It was very very good, and I congratulate and all the best for your future endeavors. Thank you.
Next, I would like to invite Dr. Sumit Aluwalia for the feedback.
Happy afternoon to you all. It was great pleasure to join this conference. I really enjoyed this conference and I learned many new things. I interacted with many good personalities and they discussed the discourse of the sustainability in more interesting manner, and I wholeheartedly thanks Dr. Nishita for the consistent support and all the team members. And I thank Dr. Dhanya Vijayan also was discussing the points regarding the forest management. In that one, I also got some new points regarding the inclusion aspect, or how we can think about the preservation in that regard, and the research outlook also. So apart from that one, the labor, the sustainability ideas, and the water, energy, so many points discussed in this conference, and I really appreciate this effort. And overall, I think those who are doing the research in the sustainability context, really they will get benefit from this conference. And wholeheartedly thanks from my side. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Then I would like to invite Dr. Binita Bose, Assistant Professor, Christ University, for the feedback. Binita ma'am, are you here? Next, I would like to invite Dr. Ramya Rajan for the feedback. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, good evening, one and all. First of all, I want to say wholehearted thanks for giving me this chance. 2 days I was really watching this international conference. I know the pain and courage taken by all faculties, and I think it is almost success, because both you have made it as hybrid mode. And I think it is very difficult, because if online facility is not available, but in spite of all this, you have conducted the program at a very high level. So I thank all the faculties, and especially Nishida, because we both have a great coordination all together with some of the programs we have already conducted. So once again, thanks a lot. Thank you.
Next, I welcome Tirupati KTM, Assistant Professor, Anna Fatima College of Arts and Science, Madurai. Sir. Tirupati sir, are you there? Okay, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, ma'am. With all these, we have to wind up this technical sessions. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.